So welcome to Contemporary Issues in Public Safety, Lecture 2. Right now we're going to discuss Fire Administration, Chapter 4, What is your leadership style? So at the conclusion of this lesson, you will be able to define the various leadership styles in use today, describe when each leadership style is appropriate, define the importance of the Johari window in enhancing leadership ability, describe the 4 preference styles and compare and contrast each type. Define schemata and describe how they can impact leadership and managerial abilities. And you will be able to articulate your own personal framework that shapes your leadership style. So, let's begin with situational leadership. So, what is situational leadership? It is the ability to adopt different leadership styles as needed. This varies depending upon the nature of the work to be done. This style takes into regard the managerial grid, which characterizes 5 types of manager, which are the impoverished manager, which is one who has a low concern for people and production. The authority compliance manager, which is one that focuses on the task but has little concern for people. The country club manager, which is one who has concern for people but has a low focus on the task at hand. The middle of the road manager has a weak balance on both people and work and just really does enough just to get the job done. And then you have team management, which is the type of manager where people are committed to the task and the leader is also committed to the task. So let's talk about Likert and Lewin's leadership styles. Rensis Likert identified 4 leadership styles. They were the exploitative authoritative style, which has low concern for people. It uses fear-based methods to achieve conformance and just has that low regard for people. The benevolent dictatorship is the leader in authoritative, is the words where the leader is authoritative, yet still has concern for people. The manager uses rewards to encourage performance and listens to concerns from the lower sector of the hierarchy. However, decisions are still made centrally and concerns are filtered as they move upward in the hierarchy. Next, we have the consultative style, which is where information flows upward, yet it is cautious and it's tempered. So decisions are still made centrally, and the information that goes upward is carefully tempered based on what upper management may think that the higher management wants to hear. So finally, we have participative level, which is where people lower down in the organization actually get to participate in decision making. People work together more so at all levels. So it's more of almost like a democracy, which you're going to see again in Lewin's types of leadership. Kurt Lewin conducted experiments, and during his experiments, he identified these 3 types, and I'm sure you've heard them before. The first is the autocratic style, which is where the leader makes all the decisions without consulting the employees or anyone. There is no need for input from lower level employees because the decision would not change as a result of their input, nor would their motivation be affected by their added input. The problem with this is that excessive versions of this seem to lead to an organizational revolution in times and a complete disconnect from the higher management to the workers. So it's almost like ruling with a iron rod. And then there is the democratic style. In the democratic style, the leader involves people into decision making, and the leader may have the final say or facilitates the masses. However, it can be problematic when there are many opinions. This has been noted as the most effective style of leadership by Lewin. Finally, there is the laissez-faire style, which is where the people make their own decisions. The leader's involvement is most minimized here of the three. So, in this type of leadership, even with the minimized role, though, the leader is still responsible for the outcome. The problem with this one is that people are not coherent in the work and did not exude the same amount of energy as they do when they are led in either the autocratic or democratic style. Now, let's talk about these 6 emotional leadership types. First, you have the visionary, which the visionary tends to move people toward a shared vision. They motivate people to get them to the vision and is a best fit. They are best fit when a new vision is needed. So they're good at motivating people to get to it. However, actually moving them there is probably not their forte. They're good at having this vision and getting people riled up and fired up to do something, but they may not always be the best in execution. Then there's the coach. The coach connects to the organizational goals. The coach helps to find your weaknesses and your strengths. Just think of basketball and football. The coach is good at delegating tasks and assignments, and the coach is best used when trying to build long-term capabilities. Now, the affiliative. The affiliative creates people harmony within the organization and focuses on, the emotional needs, the overworked needs. This style is best used for healing rifts when there have been deep rifts in the organization, going left, going right, maybe an organization is split. And it helps to get through stressful situations. Then you have the democratic, who values input and commitment via participation. The democratic has a positive impact on the work environment. So, like Lennon said, the Democrat is always good. It's probably more likely going to be your best bet. Finally, you have the pace setter. Not finally. Then you have the pace setter. The pace setter, style builds. Creates challenging goals for people, and they will exemplify it themselves. The pace setter can or will rescue situations themselves, and they get short-term results. In the long run, the pace setter will probably tire themselves out, but the pace setter wants to exemplify what everyone else should be doing and will just really go do it themselves. They're standout. Everybody's going to see, and they're trying to set the pace for everyone else. Finally, you have the commander. The commander gives clear direction and is commanding. They expect compliance. They can seem cold and distant. And the commander is actually your best choice when you need rapid action is needed. So there is none of the human relations quality in the commander because the commander is all about getting it done. They're going to be cold. They're going to give clear direction. And that's just it. The expectations are there. So, other types of leadership are charismatic leadership, in which a charismatic leader will gather followers through personality and charm. They're usually persuasive and effective in their verbal language. They attach themselves affirmatively to the group. So you feel like they are one of you. You feel a deep connection to the charismatic leader. He may personalize conversation with you and just really get your attention. That's a charismatic leader. It's more of a social leadership. So the participative leader is they seek to involve people in the process. So they might hold a vote to see where everybody's opinions are about going in a certain direction. Of course, again, that's the democratic leader. So then we have transactional leadership, which is a derivative of behaviorism. This leader creates a clear structural system in which rewards are clear for following orders. Punishments are understood and formal discipline exists. Subordinates are given tasks and full responsibility to complete that task. So in transactional leadership, you are told to do something. You may not be given the resources, but it's your responsibility to find and locate the resources because it is your responsibility to achieve the task that you're supposed to achieve. And let's see. Ivan Pavlov was mentioned here under transactional leadership and the conditioning of dogs. I'm sure you have all heard of Ivan Pavlov before, maybe in a psychology course. He was responsible for the experiment in which they conditioned dogs and the founder of conditioning itself, in which what he did was dogs usually salivate for food. And so when he began to take the food out to the dogs, he would ring a bell. Every time they got ready to feed the dogs, a bell would ring. And he did this over and over repeatedly until he got to the point where he would not even bring the food out to the dogs, but he would ring the bell. And upon ringing the bell, the dogs were conditioned to associate food with the bell. So if they heard the bell, they would automatically begin to salivate because they know that food is coming. So, let's see. That's relative to the transformational leadership because people are often conditioned to do, to behave in the way that the organization has molded this person to behave. So, with that, we'll move on to transformational leadership, which was left off of here, but I'll go ahead and go over it anyway. In transformational leadership, the leader cares about their employees and wants them to succeed. They motivate and rally the followers. They create progress, organizational wins. They begin with a vision and excite their followers. Then we have the quiet leader. The quiet leader exhibits personal humility, putting the well-being of others before their own personal needs. They demonstrate selflessness, and their downfall is that peace and harmony can be valued over challenge and conflict. So, instead of taking an opportunity to challenge, the status quo, the quiet leader may not do so, for fear of, creating an imbalance in peace and harmony. Then you have servant leadership. Servant leadership is where the leader serves others rather than is to be served. There are two criteria here. There are two criteria here. People are served and they grow as individuals under the servant leader, or the leadership benefits those that are least advantaged. So, know yourself, the Johari window. Johari window is a model of awareness based on disclosure and feedback. It includes 4 quadrants. Those are an open area, what is known by the person, which is what is known by the person about himself and is also known by others. A person's expansion of this quadrant is known as self-disclosure. So this is how much information you want other people to actually know about yourself. You're very open. Your disclosure, is in the open area. Then you have the blind area or blind spot, which is what is unknown by the person themselves about him or herself, but other people know it because they can see it. And it may be difficult for the self to recognize this, the characteristics of this area, but other people can see it. And then you have the hidden or avoided area, in which the person knows this information about themselves, but others don't, because you don't allow this self-disclosure there. And then you have the unknown area, what is unknown by the person and others. So, right here it's important to discuss schema, because schema is also a part of knowing yourself. Schema is a mental structure used to organize and interpret the world around us. It's a hypothetical mental structure that represents a concept. The types include social schemata, person schemata, idealized schemata, self schemata, role schemata, and event schemata. And they are created through three experiences. They are created through these experiences, and they are modified in one of three processes only. So the first process in which you can modify schema is accretion, which is where new information is remembered in the context of a pre-existing schema without altering the schema. So in this situation, your expectations are met. Let's say you're planning, you never had brownies before, never, but you see them all the time and you have an idea of what it would taste like. So you already have this pre-existing notion of what to expect when you experience it. And so in accretion, your expectations are met. So that's how it would be modified. Then you have tuning. Tuning is where new information is not accommodated under a new experience. So basically your expectations are not met. So you get those brownies that look so ooey gooey, chocolatey, and you put it in your mouth and it's dry. So your expectations are not met. That's tuning. Next you have restructuring. Restructuring is where the new information cannot be accommodated, and so a new schema is developed. So you get these brownies that look so ooey gooey, and you can't even chew it. Maybe it's not even food, and you thought it was food. And so you have to restructure your preconceived notion about the brownies and recategorize them as something completely different. Maybe, not even food, a toy or something. So you would use all of that information from the Johari window and the schemas to try to figure out what your leadership style is. With so many management theories and leadership styles becoming popular, these buzzwords will often become new trends in organizations. However, a good leader should find out what works for him or her and not always be so swayed by the new trends. Institutionalization is where you leave a legacy on your organization. If you leave and come back several years later, your imprint is still there. A good leader will know oneself and recognize the wiring of our schematas. Understanding this frame of reference helps us to become better leaders. Jung Type Inventory by Carl Gustav Jung is where he argues that there are four emotions that contribute towards two functions. Those two functions are one, the judging function, which includes thinking and feeling. It's used to make decisions. Then you have the perceiving functions, which is sensing and intuition, which is more so used to gather information. Jung argues that each person's personality is characterized by one of these functions in either an introverted or an extroverted manner. The Myers-Briggs type indicator was based on Jung's work. It differentiated individual preferences based on the four scales or types, which are introversion or extroversion, in which introverts focus on their inner world ideas and concepts, and extroverts focus on the outer world. Then you have sensing and intuition, which describes opposite ways of obtaining information from the environment. Sensing relies on the five senses, and intuitive rely on tuition. On intuition, extrapolating meaning and developing meaning based on previous relationships. Then you have the thinking and feeling, in which how people reach conclusions. They make decisions and form opinions. The thinking type, they use logical explanations, whereas feeling types weigh alternatives based on explanations. Finally, you have judging and perceptive. Judging makes more decisions and live more planned and orderly lives, whereas perceptive people spend more time taking in information and prefer flexibility and spontaneity. So, leadership dimensions of communication refer to introverts and extroverts. Extroverts get their motivation from people and exert their energy towards people. They respond quickly. They communicate openly. They're the people that you say they have no chill or no filter. They take words at face value, etc. Whereas introverts include time to get to know you and to trust you. They think before responding. They concentrate on one-on-one activities and encourages responses with questions. And that concludes your lecture.